All right. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name's Hannah Perkey. I'm CEO of Evelo team with Keller Williams Realty. I'm joined with Bob Warner. We're going to give you an update on what's happening in the real estate market here in central Indiana. So, Bob, go ahead and get us started. What's happening in the local market here in August?
Yeah, let's just jump right into it. So we've been doing this for quite a while. If you've ever watched along, you kind of know our pattern. First up is that median sales price. So we ended August at 315, which was up just a little under 3% compared to last year. So we've kind of been in that range most of the year and sort of that 2 to 4%, which I think is what we would have expected if you would have asked us at the beginning of the year. Next up is that median days on market. So that was at 16. That was a percentage wise up quite a bit over last year at 33%. But again, it was 12 days last year, but we are starting to see that creep back up, and you can kind of see these peaks and valleys every year. We're obviously done with the main summer months, so we're starting, to go back up to our peak, and we'll probably see that number crest over 30 like we did the last couple of years. Next up is that month supply of inventory. Again, traditionally, a balanced market has been considered about a 4 to 5 month supply. Now we might be looking moving forward, maybe a 3 to 4 month supply is considered balanced. So we ended August at 2.1 month supply of inventory. So still down, definitely from pre 2020, but up considerably from where we were from 2020 to 2022, 2023 in that range. And the next one up there, we always like to look at that percent of list price received. So we're still at an average of 97.8%, which is pretty comparable to where we were last year, almost flat. But we ended last August at 98.3.
Yeah, the months of inventory I think is really interesting. We don't have time to dig into sectors today, but if you dig into sectors, you're going to see those numbers up and down in different locations. So obviously, if they're higher, you're seeing listings sit longer, and that's something we've really been working hard to educate our sellers on, in what we're doing to help get their home sold, but also being realistic about what's happening in the market. Great. Okay. What about, so shifting market, we're kind of touching on. What else have you been tracking to look at the shifting market conditions?
Yeah, so as things start to change a little bit, we have tracked a few different things each month. First up is that active inventory. I'm actually going to speak to this one at the end as well with our final slide, but we ended at just under 6,600 units, which again, that's 1,000 units over where we were last year, so up almost 18%, which is pretty significant. I'll talk about that a little later on. Closed sales was up. Obviously, if inventory is up, that should likely mean your closed sales are gonna be up, and that's how August ended. So up almost 7.5% over last year. We like to look at that number of new listings. The number of new listings was actually down some, but if you track the other data we talked about, as more inventory sits for a little bit longer, that keeps that active number higher, even though the number of new listings could be a little bit lower. And then that last one we always like to track is the number of transactions that are closing above list price. Because again, real estate is very hyper local. So what we might see in one county or one area of one county could be significantly different from an adjacent county or an adjacent town in the same county. So I think it's always good to track this one as well. So we ended with 16.6% of the transactions in August closing above list price, which was down about 5% from where we were last year.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, the one that people have been probably waiting for this week is how are interest rates, because that's been all the hubbub in the past week and a half.
Right. And I wish we had like one more day for this one because I think next week's slide is going to be pretty different. But for the week ending 9/4, which is when this data comes out, it comes out every Thursday, we were at 6.5%, which was down just a little bit from when we did this last month. It was down like 0.08%. I think if we see this slide next week, we're probably going to be closer to 6.2, 6.3. We've even been seeing interest rates quoted for some people lower than that. Obviously, this is big picture. This is just kind of a nationwide average, and there's so many variables that go into it. I think this is relevant, but each individual circumstance and each lender is going to have some different numbers. But we've seen some quotes like at 6.1%, 6.15, that kind of thing over the last week or so. And we
Hmm.
seem headed in that direction, at least for the short term.
Yeah, yeah. And regardless, it's slightly down, right? Like it's not significant, but I think for those who have been waiting, you're getting what you've been waiting for a little bit. So,
Yeah.
yes, still, like you said, we're never going to see those big swings again, but we like the direction it's going right now. All right, any final thoughts about the state of the market?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier I was going to tie one of those slides into our final slide here, and this one just sort of hit a little bit. So this a lot of times these national statistics don't necessarily apply locally because again things are so different across areas. So I don't often use the national ones, but it actually matches our local market exactly. So we have hit the highest inventory level of homes since 2020, since January of 2020 to be specific. So we talked a little bit earlier about our active inventory being right around 6,500 units in our local market. If you went back to that graph and saw the last time that it was at or above that number, it was January of 2020, right before COVID started. So that kind of lines up with all the other things we've talked about. What that means is it just, there's more homes for buyers to look through. There's potentially staying on the market a little bit longer. So maybe you don't have to make that decision in 1 or 2 hours. You still might have to on some homes. You might actually get to see a home a second time, which is something we haven't seen in a long, long time, right? If it stays on the market for a couple or 3 weeks and you come back and look at it again, that opportunity might be there. So, if you haven't hit us up in a while and you've been thinking about buying, now you've got two reasons to maybe reach out, get in touch. We've got lower interest rates that, at
Mhm.
least in the short term, seem like they're going to continue to decline. Again, we're not going back to 3% interest rates
Yeah,
anytime in the foreseeable future. But if you locked in something in the low sixes, that's almost a full percentage point less than where we were September of October of last year. And with a little bit more inventory out there for you to get through, might be a good time to get back out and get in it.
yeah, for sure. And I think on your chart, the thing to note too is like that keeps creeping up every winter. Like you see that bump there. And so if you're thinking about selling, like we should be having those conversations now, not in 45 days, because it is a little bit harder in the winter to move inventory. People in Indiana don't like to get out in that cold weather. So if you are thinking about selling, we'd love to have the conversation and get you some data on what your specific market looks like. So Bob, thank you for prepping all of that. If you guys have any additional questions, we'd love to help with that. You can reach out. We'll throw the contact info below, and we'll be back next week or next month, maybe next week with the interest rate info. We'll see how good it is if it's Facebook worthy, but we'll be back next month with an overall view for you guys. So we appreciate it, and we hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much.